such, and we all came to the similar conclusion, and it was passed accordingly. I don't believe the design of the design has changed since then, and they still are required to do as far as visibility screening and such. And Cyrus, previously the gentleman who brought it to the zoning, and made agreements, and all those agreements that were accomplished in that zoning is going to be transferred to.
So there's no negative about it?
Not at this point.
Who owns the ground? I know Mucker Heights are adjoining. Who owns the ground?
Fletcher Power LLC owns, they own the ground. The agreements that were reached with the adjoining neighbors were put in writing, and they have actually been placed of record. They're in the chain of title, so they're binding regardless of who owns it. But going forward, Fletcher Power will continue to own it.
Is it still Fletcher Power?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was.
You're basically
the company, but we bought the LLC.
Yeah.
Okay, you bought the, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we bought the project from Open Road, Cyrus, you might be familiar with.
Yeah.
But they already had the LLC set up. We bought the
So
company.
IPA bought it. Is that how you pronounce it? IPA.
Yeah, IPA.
They bought the Fletcher LLC. Okay.
And this is.
That's the reason I was wondering when I read
Battery
that.
energy storage.
How big, what's the?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of depends. I mean, it's gonna be less than 20 acres, probably more than 10, the total footprint. So there's a bunch of different storage containers, designed to sort of keep them separate.
But would be more than 50% open space in that area. You do them like a checkerboard.
And this is,
Well, I will say this, me and Mark and Brian's done a lot of work on it. I mean, really a lot of work. Brian deserves a lot of thanks. This is a benefit to the county as far as monetary wise.
I asked a question about what keeps the city from annexing this? Can we lose all that?
There's no contingent city property after that. Have to be a couple more parcel be.
I think it's pretty close. Is it close? They just took in another 400 acres.
Yeah, it's not contingent to this property.
Okay.
I don't think
That's not to say that the line.
we make an agreement with them.
We're
County next,
set.
I think we're saying, I don't think we have to.
We can draw a line in the sand.
They might come with a handout.
Exactly.
No, I just don't want that to happen.
So what do we need to make a motion to first read and sign and approve this today? Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure he does. Signed a non-disclosure agreement.
There should be a SB1. We will get when that's completed. But there will be an SB1 that will be associated with that. I'll send that to you guys. The company for the full advertising.
Do that in October.
Yeah, that'll be approved in October.
I'll make a motion to entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-22.
Make the motion to approve.
Ashley makes a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Deanna seconds. Any more discussion, questions?
I'm looking at the back of this first page here, and it says that we're approving a property tax abatement deduction for 10 years. Is that?
The second hearing that comes after this allows you, specifically by statute, allows you to ratify that, change it, or eliminate it.
Okay.
This
And
is
so-
190, 80, 70 by the year like we normally do.
No.
This is a complete
No,
tax
this
abatement.
is what I talked to you about.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, we're not saying that we're gonna give a tax abatement. We're
Correct.
just saying
This
open for
this just
discussion.
in here is a kind of a basic form document that designates the property as an ERA. It then gets sent to the individual taxing units at least 10 days before the next hearing. Then at the next hearing, it's a public hearing. You get to receive input, and then you all get to decide on the specifics of the abatement.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
So. Thank you, sir. Ron, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Diana Winning, treasurer.
I can mention figures now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is from our investments with Trust Indiana. Currently, at the end of August, it was yielding 5.2909, and as it's up to 5.34. Uh-oh.
That's all right.
I thought I had enough. Okay. Here.
That's all.
In the month of August, we earned in interest $134,643.14. Year to date, and this is trust, which is all fluid accounts, it's earned in a year $978,032.52. The Napoleon State Bank, we had a CD that matured in August. The percentage was in the low 2% range, but it still earned us $114,000 on that 1 year CD through Napoleon State Bank. We're required to get 3 quotes from banks doing CDs, but I actually went and sought 4. The 1 year maturity was 5.21 with one of the lowest ones that I had quoted, but then Napoleon came back with a 5.35% APR for a year, and that's the one I grabbed. With that interest then, the county should be earning over at least $200,000 just in interest on that CD when it matures back in August. I haven't received anything from Matt Westhaver. We've got laddered CDs through him, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One had earned enough to create another CD, so it's doing very well. And then I'm not sure if this is the place to do it, where I had a new quote. You know, I brought to you before on the original quote from Office Shop on the desk. Of course, that was just over the internet. Originally, it was $8,100, and she was on vacay that time. She came back with $6,050.
Next to the first one.
Sorry. I'm still short.
I've got this.
Oh, yeah, you can get me. Okay. Like I mentioned, the original was $8,100. She came back with $6,050, but I just submitted $65. And when you mentioned that I at least do $2,000 under that amount, so it's $45. But I'm one that I don't want to tell someone what my total is, because a lot of times they want to spend everything that you got in the budget. So I didn't say anything to Jamie from Office Shop. And luckily, she came in at $4,223 versus the original. Some of it she was using center drawers and things that I didn't need. I just want that full desk, so it allows for 3 file cabinets. And I kind of questioned why they were so high when they began, but it's just because that many offices in the courthouse use Office Shop. They're always willing and able to give us a better discount. So that's why I wanted to present to you the new quote that she had given then, that it's just 4,223, which you had mentioned if I could work it in under 4,500, and she definitely got it under that without her even knowing about it. So just wanted to let you know about that, and that's all I had.
I think that's in your budget next year.
Might go down a little more.
Okay. Additionals. Okay, I really don't, I've got the copies here, so. Is there any of them we have signed? For additionals?
Yes,
I just got copies. I don't have any
it would be the
originals.
addendums for ARPA.
Do what?
It would be the addendums for ARPA for the appropriations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grabbed a stack of copies. I did that on the iPad.
And then we've got one for Board of Health. Everyone got that one? For $4,616.25 for flu vaccine.
Yeah, two of them. Board of Health, both at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Hold on, I'm digging around in here.
$435.
Yeah.
New carpet.
New carpet, flag, and 2 environmental ones.
That was quick.
Got 2 of them for Board of Health, one's $84.35 for new carpet laid, the 2 environmental officers, and one for $46.16.25. I don't see anybody in here to question, so. I entertain a motion to approve.
So
Kenny makes a motion to approve. 30 seconds. Any other discussion? This on both of them. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Just get out of the way and use it. Okay, we got one for $110,000 ARP money for Superior Court expansion of the wellness court for $110,000. Now this covers 1 year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this, good, it took some pressure off the county general.
And that will open up 10 more seats.
Pardon?
That will open up 10 more seats. Existing right now is only 5, so.
You know, I think you only got 3 in now.
We
So
have,
what you said?
we have 4 and we're getting ready
Got
to
4?
accept our 5th one on Thursday.
This will get you 5 more or 10 more?
10 more.
10 more, great.
I'll make a motion.
Bill makes a motion to approve $110,000 for wellness court. Ashley seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Keep passing them down. Okay, now we got $100,000 out of ARPA for public safety, mental health.
I think we have someone here that, do you want to?
Erica,
Erica's here.
you want to talk about this a minute? Tell us what's going on here.
So we came to, the ARPA, the jail commander and I did, he's in a peer support class today. When I resigned and came back last summer, I came back with the intent of, starting a mental health program for my people. I wanted them to be able to pursue, mental health services on my dime. In the same way that we pay for workman's comp, if people get hurt. But I couldn't get a lot of traction with it. And like in public safety, every priority is a priority, so it fell down the list some. When Sheriff Myers took over in January, I approached him, told him that I was interested in getting with him, and doing it more from a countywide perspective. Because obviously it wasn't just dispatch that was gonna need access to mental health services. But I knew also that he was taking over a brand new department and that he had to get his feet under him before we could get that situated. I approached Deanna after the first budget hearing in August, after hearing her talk about some of the ARPA funds that they already had earned out for mental health services, to figure out what the extent of that earnout was for, if they were already for a specific project or if they were just in general and we could tap into that. She asked me to get something on paper and get it to the ARPA board the following week. So I met with the sheriff and the jail commander, and we have come up with a mental health program that will cover dispatch, the sheriff's department, the jail, and the coroner's office. We needed a number to start with because it's not something that obviously the county has ever had in place before. So we figured on 5 to 7 critical incidents a year, each critical incident affecting 8 to 10 responders. We were initially going to build it from the ground up, but that was a lot of work. And I had heard the former sheriff from Boone County speak about his mental health program twice at 2 previous director summits. So I had actually gotten in touch with him last summer when I personally was affected by my husband's mental health to figure out where to start, and then had gotten in touch with him again after I had spoken with Deanna. Got in touch with the mental health facility that that Boone County is currently using, and basically in a week got a scope of work put together. Instead of reinventing the wheel, utilizing the same services that Boone County currently uses. I can't speak for law enforcement. I wouldn't try to speak for law enforcement, but I can tell you with certainty that it is going to be imperative that law enforcement is exposed to mental health services that are already established with law enforcement. If there is ever the opportunity for them to seek those services, they are not going to do it in a random capacity with people who are not already familiar with law enforcement. So Boone County has already established this with the mental health practice that they utilize. I got on the phone with their mental health practice. During that phone call with myself, the sheriff, the jail commander, and Rachel Hall from Pathways to Healing, she suggested that they typically see about 6 sessions before they really see what they would consider turnaround from someone who is truly affected in a work capacity from a mental health issue on the job. So back to that number, we figured 5 to 7 critical incidents, 8 to 10 responders affected by each critical incident. 6 sessions for each responder. Each session is going to be $175. We pitched to the ARPA board $73,500 to get started. Some of that will be voluntary. It will be a completely confidential program. The invoices will come directly to me as just Decatur County Public Safety employee. Each employee will just receive a number. We won't know whether they're from dispatch, the jail, the sheriff's department, or the coroner's office, and that will all just be paid out of the single appropriation for the mental health services. We also have, I'm working with the jail commander to tighten up our policy so that we will also be able to mandate in circumstances when we will need to make them basically debrief for instantaneous in the moment stuff. We will still be utilizing the critical incident team that we currently use through state police because we are established with them. The Rachel Hall actually suggested that we do stay with them if we already have a rapport with them. That is something that their facility does also provide. They do charge for that. State Police currently does it for us for free. But she did say if we do have a rapport with them, she would suggest that we stay with them. And we also, the jail commander and I are working on pushing some of our people through. That's where he is today. I have a dispatcher in the class today to build a peer support team as well, so that we can start recognizing some of this stuff in our own people, so that we can not only have to expose them externally to mental health services, but internally we can also recognize some of those red flags to be able to pull those people and provide peer-to-peer all the way up through whatever they need, mental health services at no cost or inconvenience to them. The facility, the practice is already done for them. The cost is already done for them. All they have to do is go. They'll be able to pursue it face-to-face. It is in Noblesville. From my office door to their office door is right at an hour. They also do provide some telehealth as well. So they'll be able to do it directly from home also. When I did speak to Rachel Hall, she did advise that their telehealth platform actually does provide them to be able to do some EMDR services over telehealth. EMDR is going to be comparable basically to when you go into the ER with a broken bone and they give you a pain pill. EMDR is something that they're going to do for immediate relief to, my husband did EMDR sessions basically to be able to get up off the couch and function. They have the capability of being able to provide those over telehealth as well, so that people don't have to drive an hour to pursue face-to-face, because I know in the moment, Bill would not have been able to get in a vehicle and drive an hour to seek out mental health services. So I do have, I know one of the things that the ARPA board specifically asked was measurement of success. How do we know? I can stand up here and tell you that it's going to improve retention. It's going to keep our people, it's going to keep our people alive. But I can't show you that until we actually have something in place. So I did ask the former Boone County Sheriff to attend today if you guys would like to have some measurement of success of what they saw firsthand in Boone County, of how it did work for them. I would like you to engage with him, please, because he drove really far away to sit and listen to our public hearing of our budget meeting. But if you have any questions for him, and then if you have any additional questions for me.
We don't have any current, we know that the state police, we don't really have any current in-house mental health for.
We don't. So I know that one of the things when we did the salary study, job description packets, one of the things that specifically came back from my department and the jail and sheriff's department was mental health services. And the 3 phone calls that our insurance currently pushes, that flyer was pushed back out to our people. I know that has been utilized internally in public safety, and it was a failure. The utilization felt like they called because they needed someone to speak to, and they were, hey, we'll get you an emergency medication until you can go to your family practitioner and get this all figured out. And that's not always what public safety is looking for. Sometimes they just need you to make sure they're going to stay alive that night and not try to push medicine down their throat. So that was another, obviously we didn't know better until we knew better, but that is not something that is going to work for our side of the fence. We need something other than just having access to free calls. And we knew that even if we are getting the same person all 3 times we call, those people have to tell their story to that person. And then they have to tell their story when we get their mental health services. And then by the time they have to tell it over and over, we're never going to get them to do that. They want to be one and done to get things going. So as many barricades that we put between them and getting them help is just going to deter them from being willing to do that. So currently, no, outside of them seeking it on their own, there is nothing in place. I will also tell you, last summer when I was calling, trying to get my husband mental health services, I probably heard 10 no's. The only reason that we got him in anywhere is because one of my really good friends, it's actually a licensed clinical social worker, so she was able to pull some strings to get him in somewhere. Because I basically texted her and told her, like, I just took firearms out of our home and I need you to help me. So if he was seeking those services, if our people are seeking those services, they're hearing no, we can't help you. I was doing it. I know it doesn't seem like it now, but at the time I was doing it from a sound mind. But I can't imagine if our people or if he was on the phone, being the one listening to them and saying no, they didn't have any place for him, or oh, we can get you in 6 weeks from now, or you know that there was nothing available. So this takes all of that out of it. So if you have questions for how we're going to know if it's working or not, we're asking you guys for the funding. We'll, after you guys, assuming that it goes through, we'll immediately take it to the commissioners to sign the scope of work. I think that meeting's October 2nd with the intent that October 2nd at 8:30 in the morning, when the commissioner meeting is over, that people can pick up the phone and start utilizing it. So please ask some questions if you have.
Eric, I have a question. Since when's the commissioner meeting over at 8:30?
10:05. 10:05.
We're going to get today ourselves.
Give us a little bit about, you know, the success you guys have had and how it's worked in other departments.
Absolutely. By the way, this was like deja vu sitting in our council meeting last week, so all of the conversation is exactly the same. So good morning. Thanks for having me here. And thanks to the sheriff and Erica for being so passionate about mental health. What I want to do is really just take a couple of minutes to kind of explain how important it is to me about mental health. My name is Mike Nielsen. I'm the former sheriff of Boone County, and I retired in January after 40 years of law enforcement, and the last 9 years as being sheriff, and 10 years prior to that as being the chief deputy. And I was blessed in my career, a very honorable career, to make it to where I am today. But I also want to thank each one of you and applaud you for being one of the forerunners about stopping the stigma when it comes to mental health. That is so important. And I've got a personal story that I'm just going to share with you real quick, because it's important to understand that if you've never been touched by mental health issues or traumatic events, nobody really understands what we go through in public safety. So this year, right now today, we've lost 84 folks in the line of duty across the country when it comes to cops. Now, that is down from 250 last year. And the reason it's down because of all the violence. We're up in the violence. There's a lot of shootings, a lot of those things are taking place, a lot of cops getting hurt. But we've got 84 that have actually died compared to 250 last year. The staggering part about that is whatever the line of duty deaths are, typically we have the same police officers take their own life by their own hand, okay? So last year we lost 250 in the line of duty. We lost 247 people across the nation that were law enforcement. That doesn't include dispatchers, firefighters, coroners, deputy coroners, those folks that go through the traumatic events like we do as police officers as well. And that number this year, we're at 65. We're 44% low across the nation as far as police officers that have taken their own life at their own hand. And what I can tell you, it's because of the open communication, the destigmatization that we're doing here today, and folks like you and the commissioners taking action to say this has to stop. So we're 44% down. We've lost 65 people across the nation now. I speak openly, and so does my daughter, and I'll kind of explain to you a little bit of history. In 2016, my daughter was a police officer for a city police department here in Indiana. And she had 5 years on at the time, and she tried to commit suicide because of the traumatic events that she saw in those 5 years, being a crime scene investigator, being a police officer. And what I came to realize is that through the proper therapy that she had, and speaking openly about her experiences across the country, she was able to save lives. And as I listened to her story and why she tried to take her life, it really started opening up those floodgates in me after 40 years saying, oh my God, I'm suffering from this too. It's called cumulative PTSD. And those veterans that are out there understand PTSD, and there's one incident that could cause that. This is traumatic events that we see every single day, right? Your police officers, your dispatchers are answering those calls, your firefighters, the coroners are going to see these traumatic events every single day. And over a course of time, that adds up. And what we need to do is really need to address that. The sheriff and I are from a more mature age, right? And when we first, I might even be older than he is, but when we first started years ago, and he can probably tell you this, what we were told, get back out there on the street, don't worry about it, put in the back of your mind, it'll go away. Well, until my daughter tried to commit suicide, I can tell you that I never really, that's what I did, right? And then all of a sudden it starts flooding out. So I'm in therapy still today because of some of the things that I've witnessed, but more importantly, because of the proper therapy, the EMDR, she's back on the job, which was really impressive to me how therapy works. So I've done a lot of research. I have my master's degree in business. I have an engineering degree from Iowa State. And what I can tell you is that I am a numbers guy. And when we started looking at this, I said the same thing. How do we keep track of whether this is working? And I really had to get back and refocus on that and say, I can't, okay? We know it's working because in 2018, we lost Deputy Pickett in the line of duty. And I was there during his shooting that day. And that truly affected me, okay? But what I can tell you is that by 2018, because of the things I went through with my daughter, we had the program put into place already. And thank God that we did, right? Because when we lost a deputy, it changed the dynamics of you personally, my officers personally, and my whole department. And I had 150 employees at the time. And what I can tell you is that thank God we had that therapy officer wellness initiative in place, because I believe it saved lives. And that is how you tell whether it's working. So when that happened on that day, my first, as an administrator, as the sheriff, my first question was, how in the world am I going to prevent one of my people from taking their own life? And we did that. We had the program in place, but I knew it worked because we got through the first 3 months and nobody did. We got through the second 3 months and nobody did. So you know that the process is working if you don't lose a life. And that's hard to understand. But what I can tell you is if you start putting measurements on it, then you start getting these cops who are type A personalities to say, I don't want nothing to do with that program, right? It has to be strictly confidential. I did not know who was going unless they knocked on my door and said, Sheriff, thank you for having this program because you saved my life. And that happened every month. Somebody would do that. So you know it's working when somebody knocks on the sheriff's door, somebody knocks on Erica's door to say thank you. Because we as administrators have no idea. We don't know who goes to see him, but I know when I left office in December, on December 31st, the client list that we had, which is just numbers, client 101 and client 140, we had 47 people in therapy for our program. So I knew it was working at the time. So don't put restrictions on it. Don't put accountability on it. It's about saving lives. So I'd be more than happy to take any questions that you may have about the program. But again, I applaud you. I applaud the sheriff, Erica, for having the courage to stand up and say, you know, we've got to talk about mental health, especially when it comes to our public safety officers. Any questions?
You see a lot of departments around the state that don't have anything like what we have.
Yeah, the majority of the departments do not, and I'm still very passionate about it. I still speak openly My daughter speaks openly about it. We speak across the country, but we're really trying to focus on departments in the state of Indiana to change that culture. And changing culture with cops is really, really hard, especially when it comes to some of us more mature administrators that, have learned the wrong way from the very beginning. So what I can tell you is that, yes, you're not alone, but I continue to get out there and push that message that we have to destigmatize the mental health. And we've got to say, it's okay to hurt, right? It's okay to feel that pain, and it's okay to talk to somebody about it. But it's also important, the peer support team that she's talking about, how to identify those folks that are going through those struggles, right? What are some of the key words to listen to? You've got to have those relationships with your peers so you can talk to somebody and ask those hard questions like Erica asked her husband, hey, are you going to hurt yourself today? Are you going to commit suicide? Do I need to take the guns out of your house? That is hard conversations to have, but they are needed conversations. And the more we see it today, and the more that law enforcement and public safety are going through with our society today, it's so much more important. Any other questions? Thank you for the opportunity to come down.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion for $100,000 for public safety and mental health from the ARPA.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Ashley makes a motion.
I'll second it.
Bill seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, transfers. I'll get a chance to look at the transfers.
Make a motion to approve matter ready.
Motion is made by Kenny to approve transfers. Need a second?
I'll second.
Melanie seconds. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Food and beverage. Food and beverage times.
Well, good morning. It's been a long meeting so far, but we want to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak on behalf of the proposed Decatur County Aquatic Center. Our pool committee has been hard at work meeting regularly to try to develop a plan to fund the gap between funds allocated from READY and ARPA and what the actual total costs that we would incur to bring this new facility to reality, not only for Greensburg and Decatur County, but for all the visitors who travel and come to our facility. And they will come. If you build this, they will come. So our committee is comprised of several members from different entities, and the Decatur County Park Board has committed full support of our group's efforts. They voted last month to approve the use of some funds that were left or currently in the 2023 park budget due to the fact that the pool did not open this year, to be used to enter into letters of engagement with Baker Tilly and Barnes Thornburg for financial and legal guidance for this project. And as the availability of these funds was the result of the pool being closed this year, there will be no additional cost to the council for any of these services. By having a business plan in place, we as a committee hope to be able to partially fund the new aquatic center using revenue from a 1% food and beverage tax. We've been given a timeline, which if we follow it, will allow us to begin collecting these funds in January 1st of 2024, should the council vote to adopt the new tax. We have a list of all businesses and restaurants that will be impacted by the new tax, and our committee plans to reach out to all of them by either mail, email, and or personal phone calls to invite them to an informative meeting on 2 p.m. on October the 2nd. That meeting will take place at City Hall. It is our hope that a representative from each one of these establishments will be able to attend that day, and we are also asking or extending the invitation to all county officials as well. The county council will also be required to conduct a special public hearing to allow for public input on the tax. In order for us to adhere to our timeline, this meeting will need to be held between October 18th and November 1st. And if we do follow the timeline that we've been given, a 2025 opening for a new aquatic center is certainly doable. And having the pool closed this year is, there's an impact that our community, whether it's swim lessons, whether it's just a day out with family, whatever, there's a definite impact by not having the pool open. The food and beverage tax has a 20-year limit, but however, if bonded, that time frame could possibly be extended. It must be used only for identified quality of life expenditures only, in this case, the Decatur County Aquatic Center. It could also be used for future improvements in Decatur County Fairgrounds should funding be available. So we've prepared some information for you as a council to see what the taxes mean to consumers, along with more information and resources to kind of explain what a food and beverage tax is and does. And Brian is now sending out those flyers that we put together. This highlights what the food and beverage tax means to consumers. It's not a blanket tax for all your groceries that you go buy. It's simply a 1% tax on prepared food that's cooked and sold at stores. So it's a little bit of a misconception that every time you go to the grocery store, you're going to automatically pay a 1% tax on your entire grocery bill. That is not the case. But by utilizing this tax for payment for this amenity, the tax burden shifts significantly to visitors directly consuming these investments and tax supports. So if you have any questions on that, Brian would also be willing to answer some of those if I cannot. So I'd be willing to field your questions. And
so will this tax come off when the pool's paid for?
it has a 20-year span that I don't know for sure if it ends, if it's paid off early, does it end, or does it go on? I don't.
It's even 20 years for the life of the bond. So if you guys pay it off early, it's under that 20 years. You guys, it's up to you if you want to end it, or if you guys, again, it can be used potentially for fairgrounds as well.
But the legislation that was dictated that timeline, you have to participate requiring.
What
With
is
the
the
legislation.
proposed dollar amount for the project? Do we know?
That's still in the process. We have an RFP that passed last night for the board. We had the initial projections. I think we had added around 9 million. I think we're looking at ways of maybe saving some, be it in the building process, construction process, or maybe with mass.
Okay.
That's preliminarily right around
Yeah.
$10 million in that.
Where did
We
you
started this last year, so
650,000 projection come from?
Baker Tilly did that. Now, they're gonna dive into that a bit more. That was the initial, based on some of these estimates that were through the State House, we got approved for the food and beverage tax, but that's one of the reasons that we engaged with Baker Tilly actually to do the numbers to see exactly what that, a more accurate figure of that.
I was gonna say Rubens is about half that much.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
Yeah, the DLGF also said it would be over $500,000. They always run the numbers before a food and beverage tax is passed for the different entities.
Here's my question. What is in this for the food and beverage people? I mean, they're the ones, foots on the ground, going to be collecting this tax. What is in it for them? I mean, we have a wheel tax that goes to highway improvement. We have a public safety tax that goes to public safety. We have a jail tax that goes to the jail. Shouldn't this tax go to enhance the food and beverage people? Maybe have a training program so they can get more waiters. They have trouble finding help right now everywhere. More servers, more bartenders. What's going to be in it for the food and beverage people who have to do all the legwork and collect these taxes? I
can answer that probably. There's parameters on what can the food and beverage tax can be used for, and that's not within the state parameters of that. Most of it's due towards, that would attract visitors to your community, which which would
Yeah.
in turn help them.
Probably gonna run more away than it's gonna attract. But,
Okay, so we have lots of facts that show that is false.
yeah, I wanna see them because everybody I talk
Oh,
to
yeah.
says, easy choice to be, I'm gonna go to the other county.
So
Okay.
Orange County that we'll be at next week has a 2%.
Shelbyville has a food and beverage tax. You think
Yeah.
people don't go
I
to?
think a
Shelbyville?
lot of communities have them and you're not really even aware that they're there because it's not such a large thing on your, unless you just actually look at the receipt and wonder, what is that?
And from that standpoint, if we're choosing to drive to another community because of the 1% tax, I would question that logic just in gas money, you know. But yeah, I think the key is where this money is going is to enhance the quality of life that would hopefully create, in this case, a regional draw, bring more people to that community, especially where it's located out by the stadium with the ball diamonds, the enhancements that are being planned for the fairgrounds, the park that's there. I think this would be an incredible attraction for more people who hopefully will.
Where's your list, of everybody who has to pay this tax?
The list of
Yeah,
all
you
the
gonna take
restaurants.
restaurants, or you gonna take?
Yeah.
Taverns, you gonna take, food trucks?
Yeah, I mean,
They're all on
it's
the
under the same,
The Honda employee cafeteria, yep,
Okay, who's gonna enforce all this?
the DLGF, or
No,
DLR.
DOR. It's Department of Revenue, it's the same process. Really, at this point, it's just reprogramming your cash register to allot for that 1%. They pay sales tax and such like that. This would be collected on the second one.
We don't need no tax.
What's the percentage of people from out of our county that would pay that tax?
Well, I think.
Brian,
it's higher.
Well, yeah, it's actually slightly, our estimate is based on Placer data. Placer being a geofencing program that tracks expenditures. It'll be paid for by 51% of visitors versus this is the way we chose this wasn't something that was just, hey, we're going to choose that. We chose this route to help pay for this investment in our community because it wasn't rested on the backs of, totally on the backs of Decatur County people.
So that's
It was also
really your
shared.
hospitality there. We're
Is
gonna
that-
charge, that's Hoosier hospitality, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Doesn't
mean,
sound like
it
the
is.
guy in line for a cheeseburger wants the guy behind you to pay for it.
Well, I mean, they're using, I guess they're utilizing our facilities here to actually facilitate that cheeseburger. They might as well pay a little bit more.
And you can put it in perspective as well. The $50 steak that I'm going to purchase, it's 50 cents. I could probably go in the parking lot and find a couple of orders and that's covering my 50 cent food and
So
beverage
why
tax.
bother?
You know
Because
what?
it doesn't
Because it adds
cover.
up, when everybody pays a little bit of
I'm
here
gonna
and
be
there.
unpopular too, but we're building a playground, exactly what we're building. And I've got a granddaughter down southern part of the county. It takes 45 minutes to download a term paper to get into college. We're gonna spend 9 or 10 million on a pool. Why are we looking at broadband? Why are we looking at, I mean, I'm looking at like improving the lifestyle of my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I'm,
And there's a lot of
but we're gonna
safety.
build a playground.
There's a lot of safety involved with it too. I
Well,
mean,
I know,
in order to
but
have swim lessons and able
this
to
is
be able
my
to train them.
And again, I don't think there's anybody in here that would disagree with you that we need to work broadband, but food and beverage tax is not allowed to. Broadband. I think, yeah, and
Well, I think you need to have a plan where this money is used to enhance the food and beverage people who are doing the work to get this money collected. Not just
yeah,
spend all in one random
yeah,
project.
I guess we're in the brand, it's
We
not
have to do
within the
what the
parameters of
legislation
what the state
requires.
says,
That's
but
what the state says.
the object is to, again, create an attraction that will attract more people to it and.
Do you know 10 million on a pool?
That's the average pool.
That's not really a out of the breach price what the pools that we visited and the projects we've seen. It's just, it's a pretty common, I mean, it's pretty baseline starting point.
And there's already 3.5 million set aside for the ready dollars and monthly dollars. We utilize that Placer data. We can track something like 1,800 Decatur County residents went to the pool at Shelbyville in 2022. Another 800-900 went to the pool North Vernon, because those two places have updated. We're losing a lot of.
Yeah, but have you seen what Rushville's gonna do with their money, Rush County?
But they don't have a food.
They're gonna redevelop the Walmart up there, but
That was
all
ready.
kinds of things.
Yeah, the projects you guys are bringing, those are all great projects. I don't think anybody is saying we can't do some of those things too, but that's kind of a separate conversation for food and beverage.
I mean, no one's in favor of taxing. No one, I'm not gonna stand and tell you that I'm excited about taxes, but I just don't think it's a significant amount of money that people are going to absolutely just not come to Decatur County because we're charging a 1% food beverage tax. And I think it's absolutely essential to bring that life back to that pool. And we all, and even you as a council agreed that it was time to stop putting dollars into that facility when it wasn't. Every year we were going to be faced with something new. I mean, let's face it, it was built in 1959.
Could have paid for half this new project.
Things just don't last forever. And at this point, I think it's time to start over.
It's more than just a pool, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's an aquatic center that will serve not just children, it will serve adults. We hope to bring respite groups out, rehab from the hospital possibly. We're thinking about that in our, if it goes as planned and we get this lazy river addition. Lots of the pools we visited use it for rehabilitation in the morning. I mean, yes, it's a pool that's right now operated on a 2-month schedule, but we hope to extend that to 3 months at least. If we get a pool like this, I call it a pool because that's just what I've worked with for 39 years. We called it the Allen Memorial Pool. I'm gonna have to learn to call it an aquatic center. But if we do what we think, we can expand that. You know, people are gonna wanna work at a pool, at an aquatic center like this. They're gonna be excited to come where maybe we could get adult lifeguards who don't have to go back to school, don't have to go to college. You know, they can possibly help us staff it and keep it open much longer than what we're doing right now. We can get swimming lessons back. Swimming lessons are critical. And we have had a pretty good program out there. And believe it or not, that's one of the top calls that I got in the beginning of the summer was, are you still gonna be able to do swim lessons even though you're not opening your pool? Well, no, because I don't have the water in my pool. I can't teach you how to swim. But anyway, yes, it's more than just a pool. This will serve so many people and allow families to do things that we've never been able to offer before.
Well, I would like to list all the businesses that are gonna be expected to collect this tax. Do you have that?
I do not have it with me, but we do have it.
You're welcome to come to the October 2nd meeting. The restaurants will be invited to that, and we do have that list. There's a lot more to be done.
I'd like to have it before
This
that.
is just an
Is this a
initial.
big secret or what?
No,
We
it's
wouldn't
not
be standing here.
a secret at all.
This is the initial meeting, and then the next meeting would be a public reading, and then we will also have a public hearing where everybody in the community can come and voice their opinion like you. Yep, so,
It has to go through the public.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a timeline and we have to meet each one of the things in order to get the food and beverage tax even adopted. So
And we're going next week to the meeting, so we can, that question will be brought up.
I'd like to list ahead of time if I could get it. Can I get that list?
Yeah, we got it from the Board of Health, so, yeah.
yeah, we asked for it from Sean.
Where you got it?
We got it from the Board of Health. They gave us the list of the restaurants in Decatur.
Brian will email it to you.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, no
All right. Yeah, thank you.
And so our main accomplishment today is we need to talk about the public hearing and when we want to schedule the public hearing.
Right.
I
You get that on
know,
your
they have
calendar.
the, November 1st, my question is, can we schedule a public hearing prior to the first reading of the ordinance?
I would think so.
I think we have to introduce the ordinance prior to said, so that would put it.
So, yeah. The goal is to November 1st for the public hearing. If we have time to get that advertised in that time.
You have to be immediately,
Yeah.
And
You
then,
need to advertise it every day.
I don't know, what,
no, I
what
essentially,
are we
the
looking
next,
at?
the next
I mean, I
council,
never
the
looked
next
at
council
timeline,
meeting,
really.
the next council meeting, would be, where we would introduce the ordinance that would be drafted up by Varsity Board. And then once that, is read for first reading, we would have it advertised for a public meeting. I think it has to be 10 days, maybe, is that correct, Janet? For an ordinance?
2 days
right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, and then we can have that November 1st, and then the second reading will be in the November council. So that's the process. So I really don't think we can set it formally right now, but project the November 1st be a public meeting for this ordinance.
The actual date, November 1st.
Yeah, I think that's how it acted out.
So as a council, though, because that would be a special meeting that we need to advertise, because that's not
Right.
normal.
Yeah, the legislation requires a separate public hearing with that as the only topic.
Right, that's fine, I just need to make sure we have it caption for the.
Yeah.
Public
And
notice.
we can do that through Barnes and Clover.
And if we truly want public input, we probably should look at doing it in the evening.
But we can make a time decision at an October
Yeah,
meeting.
yes, yeah.
That's fine.
I think this was more of an update, just kind of informational session for you guys, to show that this is still progressing, we're still,
We just wanted to make sure you were aware that we were still meeting and still working on it. It didn't just go away, so.
Any other questions? I got anything else? Of course, he ran out on it, so. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Ashley second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody gonna oppose that?